As you can see here on the top left, we have where I do a lot of the building at the other side of the room there. So let's move across and I'll show you. First thing you've probably noticed there is the fact that that calendar looks incredibly empty. Hello and welcome back, and today we are looking at a little bit of a deep dive into the DVA3221. It is the 4-bay surveillance optimized Synology NAS, the one that involves an NVIDIA graphics card inside and is designated and utilizing deep video analysis, DVA. Now in today's video we're utilizing this system fully populated, I'm pleased to say, with a Seagate Skyhawk surveillance drive. Seagate have whizzed 4 drives over to me today to take advantage of this. So again, it's not sponsored by them, they're not paying for it or anything like that, but I will say this video is definitely one that's going to benefit from utilizing surveillance drives rather than traditional NAS, because throughout the course of this video I'm going to show you some of the analysis features of this device while simultaneously accessing recordings and the cameras doing their recording. Alongside that, towards the end of the video, I'm going to be pulling one of these drives out of the system to show you guys exactly what happens if a drive was to fail, to show you that the data can still be accessed thanks to the parity, and show you what happens when the drive is reintroduced into the system. What I'm saying is, this video would still exist if we weren't using surveillance drives, but the optimized performance that we're going to see throughout the course of this video is thanks in some large parts to the fact that we're using surveillance class drives. So again, grateful we've got those drives there and we've got these all the way through. You can find out more information. They've got all the info there. These are the standard class drives, not the AI class, but again, AI class is recommended for those larger arrays. So again, let's move forward. We're using those 4 drives in an SHR environment. We're not taking advantage of BTRFS. We're sticking with traditional ext4 for this video, and we're not using any SSD cache. Everything you're seeing here today is utilizing Reolink cameras. We've got 3 relatively mid to high range Reolink cameras dotted around my recording environment, and we're going to be utilizing both all of the cameras recording right now throughout the whole course of this video, and we're going to be accessing the footage once again throughout the course of this video and running AI services. So as you can see here in the Performance Manager, they've added just a couple of extra areas where you can see for the GPU card, and what you'll see is both the network real busy because of all the cameras sending data to the machine, and the CPU and the GPU and the memory is going to be higher than normal because we are going to be pushing this system quite a lot. The system arrives with, I believe, 8 camera licenses, and we're only using 3 of them, so we've got 3 cameras set up. But what I will say is we are using 4 simultaneous AI services on this system. We're taking advantage of different kinds of deep video analysis, ranging from people tracking to people counting, intrusion detection, and a different kind of intrusion detection. We will be looking at those a little bit later on. Now, moving away from DSM there, we're going to leave that resource manager there in the background. Here is the browser interface for Surveillance Station. It's accessed very easily just by clicking that app there. And even though we're going to be utilizing a combination of the web browser and the client that you could download for Windows and Mac, which means it's a far more efficient tool to access all of the features, 95% of the features you're going to see today can be accessed via the web browser. There's just certain features along the lines of ones like the Smart Search and Smart Time-Lapse, which are more effective when using the resources of your client PC. So I will be flicking between them, but not too much. If you are interested in getting hold of some of those client apps, there are quite a few of them. Synology, you've got quite a few decent ones there. And just to quickly skim over these, Archive Vault is for the long-term storage of recordings. Access Door Controller is to utilize Access Smart Door, CMS, Content Management System, and Central Management System of all different surveillance archives. Device Pack for updating the cameras that are supported by the device. Dual authorization is if you want to take advantage of enhanced privileges in the access management of your NVR. Edge recording, I/O module, and IP speaker. These are all ones that are very, very enterprise specific, with edge recording being if you're taking advantage of an SD card to work in unison inside the system and let the Synology surveillance system utilize localized SD storage. Live broadcast, if you want to turn one of your camera feeds into a YouTube link. Live view, multicast, again, this is if you want to share multiple links at once. Smart time lapse, we're going to look at later on. Transactions, if you're going to be using cross references with kind of point of sale stuff. Visual station, this is one of those ones where if you're going to be utilizing the VH system, but again, we're not going to be utilizing that, so we're not going to talk about that much today. And then you've got the utilities, some of which that are quite unique. Evidence integrity checker is when it will analyze recordings for breakages and edits. Surveillance station, the one that we're using. Transaction logs, same as the other one, but local. Same as transaction device if you're going to be using a POS system to connect to the surveillance logs. And video converter for when you want to turn these recordings to something a little bit more suitable. Finally, DS Cam is the mobile application for iOS and Android for accessing your surveillance database via your phone. And Live Cam turns your phone into a camera for surveillance station. And finally, Access Barcode Reader, as the name suggests, if you are utilizing for a recognition and login system, that barcode reader. That's for like name badges and stuff like that and entries. So loads of tools there. Now, you came to this video to learn a little bit more about surveillance station, let's be honest. And if we open up live view, we can immediately see these 4 cameras. As you can see here on the top left, we have where I do a lot of the building at the other side of the room there. So let's move across and I'll show you. First thing you've probably noticed there is the fact that that calendar looks incredibly empty. I only moved into this office around 3 weeks ago and I've had to get a new calendar because the last one got water damage. So don't worry, there's actually a lot more going on than you might like. Now the top left camera is a PTZ, so if we zoom this around a little bit, we can bring that down and we can see down here not only a big pile of boxes of drives, but just underneath, out of shot, we have got the NAS in question right there. And what we want to do is move that camera into somewhere close to where it was before, because we have got AI services built up into this camera. And by moving this camera, unfortunately, those AI lines will be affected, and you'll see for yourself. Now, left camera, the right camera here is obviously where I've got my recording deck of lights here. There's normally a camera dotted in the middle of the screen there. And this would be where I would do my recordings with the sound cone there in front of me. And finally, we've got this top-down camera right up here that is utilizing and recording there. Now, those camera feeds, you can do the usual stuff in Surveillance Station. You can set stream patrols, alerts, you know, motion detection, light detection. You can have the cameras, if they're PTZ, like the one at the top, to record. You can also zoom in and drag into a section there, so you can have a much larger view of it. You can zoom back out. You can take snapshots if you choose, and that will store a snapshot. Same goes for any of these camera feeds. And remember, everything we're doing here is in the web browser. It's not utilizing the desktop client, although the desktop client can do all of this. Now, if we want, we can go ahead and go back to some old recordings if we choose. So we can go back to some old recordings and alerts from earlier today. So if we rewind, we can go back to this camera here. So while that's recording, we can see here while I was preparing for a video, this was for a couple of NASes for a review that I was doing earlier on. And I'm going to wave at the screen just to show you that while that feed is accessing the old recordings, at the same time, I am doing live recordings. And again, we can drag and zoom in this the whole time. So if we like, we can drag and zoom there into that NAS. And again, move across the camera. And we can see me there making notes for the video coming up soon. So again, it's nice, it's good that we can access both old and new recordings alike simultaneously. I should also add that I am utilizing OBS for screen recording here, and chances are that is going to affect the frame rate at times. So again, it's a fairly straightforward user interface. We talked about it before. Different cameras have different functionality. We can go for manual recording. We can change these stream settings to make it a higher quality or lower quality based on the recording that we're utilizing. Find out more information about the camera, what's the bit rate that it's utilizing, the name of the camera, and more. And of course, as mentioned, the DVA system actually allows you to add more cameras, seeing as you have more licenses with your system. So at the moment, I've got 3 cameras there, but I do have several more licenses already in the system for me to add cameras as and when I see fit. I could go into more detail about Surveillance Station, but I have covered Surveillance Station quite a lot in the past. The voice there on screen is ever so slightly out of sync with my voice. And again, same goes for input, output. If we have cameras, we can always add all that in. But again, the feed system here, if we add more cameras, we can create more, we can add emaps, all of that stuff's there on camera. So now we want to switch into some of the AI stuff. So as mentioned, we can go into deep video analysis. Now, in deep video analysis, as we see here, we've got one here. This is people and vehicle detection. Obviously, I'm the only one in this room because of the ongoing pandemic and having to make sure I'm not in close proximity, and I work in this office alone. The result is that it's only going to be my face and me triggering these alerts. Now, if we go in, we can have a look at these different ones. There's our patrol rules. We're going for, it's a line check that I've already named. We've made sure that triggered alerts are maintained. We can check the parameters and where we want the zone. So in this case, every time I've triggered motion in this box here, and I've made sure to select these items, it would trigger the alert. And again, we can set that on a schedule. I've set it for all time, but we can set it for certain times of the day if we choose. Now, if we go into the 82 registered alerts today, we can see 82 times today that alert has been triggered. So we can select one at random. Let's go for that one. Hopefully I wasn't doing anything embarrassing. I'm drinking a large bottle of water as quickly as I can. So as you can see, straight there, it triggers through that box and it can show that I am triggering into that detection area. Nothing else is being triggered there. And it also knows, you may have noticed, that I am a person. It's knowing that what it's triggering is a person there, which is key. This is probably not an ideal scenario to show this feature off, but it's still quite handy. Now, next, line detection. Now we've got 14 line detection alerts here. So if we go through it, this is utilizing a different camera, and this is a line counter here that triggers when someone goes in and out. So as you see there, it has triggered the counter there to count one in, one out, hence the two colors. And this is me as I'm getting ready to leave, and I left the office yesterday, so it counted me going in and out of that box. Same goes if we go for a different line detection. Obviously we've moved the camera a little bit. If we see there, bang, and it counted it. It's nice and simple. It's the detection on it is very straightforward. And again, if this was an overhead camera, these results would probably be a little bit more significant. So again, we can come out of those. And again, setting an alert area is super easy. So if we go for people alerts, firstly, we'll do this one as test. And we'll select a particular camera. So go for the bullet camera, click next. We'll then say, do we want it to trigger an alert as well? And also, if you are using facial triggers, they can be stored as well. So we click apply. So now we've got the camera just above my head here. So what we can do is now have this alert over here. Set it up so it's here. And this is a people detection. And what we do is we can set it up for a person at this desk. It's that straightforward. And again, depending on the area in question, you can go ahead and just map it very, very easily to make sure, for example, to know that someone's at that desk and who is at that desk. It can now trigger that, and it's that straightforward to create that alert there. Same goes for if we go for intrusion detection where a line was crossed. So we can go for these, and these are ones. These are the fixed dome just next to me, so crossing a line. As we can see there, as my arm is moving in and out of that line, it is triggering that alert while I was recording the early stages of this video. So again, lots of, and again, the cross-referencing of people versus motion through a line is recognized when my face breaks through the line there that's been created. Another alert we've created earlier on, let's come out of there to go back into it. We can go into studio cables. This is where we've set up around 10 minutes prior to this recording, a line that was drawn around. Let's go back to the task in question. So if we go to the parameters, you'll be able to see top down from that camera that I've created a line there that if I walk past it into this area here where all the microphones and the lights are, that it will set an alert off. So if we go into that intrusion detection, click apply, click play. As you can see, while it's been going really there, my hand has cracked through the line, and there you go. 15 minutes before, when the camera was in a slightly different position, we're able to see that while I check my phone there, my head has pierced through that area there. And just to confirm that it's all functioning and working correctly, I go ahead and break through that line in the background while I get ready with the microphone. And as you can see, it's knowing that an intrusion has gone across that line there. And this is coming up in the detection results. Now, facial recognition, as mentioned, is something that's going to be very tough to show when it's only myself here using local area network cameras. So this is an area here where I've set this up for different groups. So we can add people. There's lots of choices there. And there's the parameters within that camera field. So if we want to create a brand new alert, for example, if we want to create a new facial detection, we're running the 6 tasks maximum on this system, unfortunately. So let's go ahead and disable some of these tasks. So let's go ahead and remove that last one. It's that straightforward. And we can remove all the alerts. So once again, the hard drives are being accessed throughout those drives. And there's the facial recognition. And if I move myself around the camera, we're going to be able to see that it has recognized my face. Moving slightly out of shot, bringing my face back in. And then from here, you can actually trigger those people. You can actually just say, yep, I want to know who that is and add them to the database. So, for example, if we go into the facial recognition, create that new task, call this one Face 2. Again, we're going to utilize the fixed dome camera just next to me. And then we can choose if someone is allowed, give them a color, if they're blocked, if they're, say, management, and we've recognized their faces and assigned their identity, we can have it so that it's triggered. So there's the area. And again, we don't have to use the full area. We can just say smaller zones if we choose, rather than if we don't want it to scan the whole area. So again, we'll let it be like that. We'll click finish. And now we're creating our new detection zone for this camera. And it's already started detecting faces. So if I happen to look at the camera, look how tired I look. Wow. And as you can see, it's clocked the face immediately. So we can go ahead, go into that alert, see the face at the same time. So a face has been recognized. You can set that up so a person who has entered the premises has now been recognized rather than a person, you know, like an animal or something. And if we go into the registered faces, you'll be able to see that here is every single time my face has been registered by these. And because I've added myself to the database yesterday, if you look carefully, you can see that the registered face there is wearing a different shirt because it was the day before. You can see that it has managed to identify the face and has added both of these together. Go there, come back out of it. Lots of fun there trying to use the zoom while it not triggering stuff on camera. So lots and lots of facial recognition tracking there. And then with face databases, you can then give this person an identity. So this person can be Robbie, give them a group, and we can say this person is going to be staff. Click save. And there we go. We've now got our different group, and we can make sure familiar faces are all added. And again, when you create those user groups, you can then set different bits and bobs for them. Nice and straightforward. And then you can archive the facial recognition results of people and more over time. It really is that straightforward. And again, all of this is nice and easy and set within the recordings. So the facial recognition and the thing recognition obviously works a great deal better outside. And I'm sorry I'm not able to show that in greater detail here. But if we go into the timeline settings, I can show you some of the historical data. So right now we are looking at around about 128 earlier on. So we go in, we can get all the cameras up and running. This was while no one was in the room. You can see it's completely empty. And we can go ahead and zoom down, go along, flick to the next day, or flick to the previous day even. And we can find the recordings. Let's go for just before 10 a.m. This is when I was getting ready and doing some recordings for a unit known as the Amber. So we'll get some there, some stuff going on screen. Me on phone having an argument with O2. Always a pleasure. Let's go for something a little bit more relevant, shall we? we'll go for our while we were doing our earlier recording. So right now this is not a live feed, this is just the timeline. Just to put it into perspective, there is the live feed. So we'll have the live feed there, and on the bottom right we've got the old recordings. Just to put that into perspective, I'm just going to wave my hands in the air like I just don't care. So again, this is all being made possible because we're utilizing a system that can take advantage of using drives for both reading and writing simultaneously on a single 1 GBE network, and these drives being so heavily influenced between writing over reading. So we've got those archives there, and from there within those search parameters, so if we you look at the timeline there rather looking at the recording cameras, but we are going to keep them on screen at all times just to show you that it can do it. We can go ahead and fast forward quite significantly. So say we go back to just after 9 AM. On the right hand side of the screen you can already see, I'm just going to point here and just move my hand so you can see that the frames per second isn't going to drop. We can see that even at 100 times fast forward speed, it's still able to get these captured recordings, still able to present this feed to us, even on the right hand side of the screen, when lots of recordings are still being displayed there on screen, which is absolutely fantastic there. So while it's doing all of that, we can take a little look at the resources. As you can see, we are starting to creep up. We've got 6 AI tasks running. It's all happening there on the system. While all that's happening, why don't we really tax the system now, and this time have a look at intelligent smart searching. So now we're going to look at the smart search. Now smart search allows you to use recognition for things like object missing, foreign object, occlusion, and other kinds of error. So missing object, for example, is going to be utilized when you know an object has moved from the field of view. So say we go for the bullet camera. So the bullet camera, which was focused up nice and high, we're going to select the recordings from today. We're going to go for the recordings from 3 o'clock. This is earlier today. I think I angled the camera down at one point. Let's find when I angled the camera down, because that's what we want. And then what we want to do is now we're going to run from this moment at 2:51. We're going to let this camera run a search on objects that have moved or have been taken away. So we're going to go for missing object, and then we're going to play it and allow it to search. So we have to do a grid section, of course, and we're going to go for items here in this field of view, including the bottle that we know that I took earlier and the phone that I moved earlier. So let's go ahead and play it. So we're going to allow the system to do its searching. And again, it's fast forwarding, but not too much. And while it's doing that, do bear in mind, in the background, we're still running that fast scan there on the timeline. And at the same time, we've got the camera feed. Let's wave my hands again on camera. There you go, Robbie. Do what you do. And then on the right-hand side of the screen, we're going to see how long it takes this system to go ahead and recognize that I got up at one point and these cameras were moved out of shot. Let's hope it did happen. Trying to remember when all of those things were moved around. So let's fast forward a little bit, maybe to 1506. And as you can see, as soon as I moved the device, it can see that objects changed within that field of view. We can go ahead and look at that and see what it saw as an item that was moved or changed. But as you can see, it registered that those items were moved out of that shot. If we'd heightened the sensitivity away from medium, we may have seen more impressive results there. But still, nonetheless, it was still able to recognize objects that were moved out of shot there. So again, as we've moved that feed around, we can do that exact same test. And this time we're going to go and pause it, and we're going to go for foreign object. So foreign object, again, because we're moving stuff around, is going to be trying to utilize things that have moved out of shot. But once again, we should probably wait until we've got, at the very least, an object there. And so this is going to be when an object is resized and changed in scale throughout the course of this. So let's go ahead and move that closer to 235 perhaps. Change it so we can see something that's moved in time. So again, when the laptop was on the side there, let's move that back. And you're able to see that this triggering alert is going to occur. So we've got the laptop there, it's still me moving around. It looks like in the background here we can see that the camera, and as we can see, it's immediately triggered some kind of change there. You can see the foreign object change. So the alerts themselves trigger quite easily, and they do, as you can see, with continued change there, presumably that one being the laptop change. And it's noticed that that laptop has disappeared even though the laptop was in the previous shot. So again, some nice features and functionality there, and I've always been a fan of this AI assisted stuff. But I think right now one of the things that I'm enjoying is the simple idea that throughout the course of this video I've had the live feeds at the top of the camera, I've had old recordings being sped at 100 times speed, and I've still been able to scan for some of the AI recognition there. So I'm going to wrap things up shortly, but what I am going to do before I do that is I'm going to rotate this camera a little around, and we're going to do that drive pull that I promised you. So we're going to leave that there to let that camera rotate down. And down there is the NAS in question. So I'm going to go ahead and pull the drive from that system. And while it does that, let's move that to one side. So actually, let's do this another way. Let's bring up the client app. Let's bring up the surveillance station client. Open it up, and then while it does that, log straight in. And while it logs us in, we're going to have a little look at the resources throughout the course of the next section. We are going to open up the storage manager. So again, we're going to have that running there. We're going to have surveillance station open. We're going to open up the live feed. So again, the one that we're looking at here, we want to focus on is this one. I'm going to be right back. As you can see, and no doubt heard, the system, I've removed that drive. So if we go into the storage settings, we can see that it's registered as degraded. You can hear the beeping there in the background. We can see that the pool has degraded. We can go into the control panel. We can go into the alerts, notifications. From notifications, we want to disable that horrible beeping before it gets super annoying. Let's find out where that is. There we go, we've disabled the beeping there for us. There we go, and that beep should be gone. So now we are running the system on 3 out of 4 drives. That drive has been removed, as you can see there. And on top of that, if we go into the storage manager, you're going to be able to see that we've only got 3 drives listed, all of those Seagates. So what we want to do now is see, can we access our recordings? So let's go ahead, let's come out of the feed. Let's go into the timeline. And we can still see the recordings from, we go to Wednesday, we can go to Wednesday afternoon, we can go all the way through into the night, go into 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock, still able to cycle through those recordings, go into Thursday, go into 6 a.m, we can see the clock there in the background of that camera recording. We now go into just after lunchtime, where I'm fairly certain I smashed through a cheese pastry, because why not? And then why not, let's ramp it up to times 100 speed there while the system is going through recordings. And remember, as said, the system has already lost 1 drive. We've removed a drive and it is still able, despite that, to go through all of those recordings for us, which again for me is pretty damn impressive. Yes, utilization of GPU, CPU and memory has spiked up significantly, but the idea that I can remove one of those Skyhawks to such great success, for me, is just another big reason why it's such a good drive. Now, I'm going to head back over to the system now, and what I'm going to do is reintroduce that drive. So again, there's the live recording. I'm going to wave my hand. There it is. Going to leave that there, and at the same time we're going to move that storage pool area there. As you can see, it's telling us it has degraded, and now I'm going to reintroduce that drive. Now it's worth highlighting this system does not support resilvering, which is when you install an old drive that is from the RAID back in and it's managed to resync it. We'll have to rebuild the RAID, but nonetheless, even then we should be able to access our recording. So I'm going to head over. And here we are, I've reintroduced that drive, so in a moment we should hear a beep in the background. If we go into the available drives, we can see only 3 drives have been presented. In a moment, that 4th drive is going to be initialized inside, and from there we can start introducing and reintroducing that drive into the RAID array. It just takes a few, around about a minute or so for it to register, but there you see, it's not initialized that drive. So if we like, we can go into the storage area, we can do an action on this RAID, and we can do a repair. It will say there's that drive that we've just reintroduced. Click next, click next. It's saying that it's not listed on the compatibility list. Don't worry, it is. Go ahead and click OK. Click apply, and there we are. It's now going to rebuild that RAID array utilizing that new drive. And while it does that, we're going to be able to go ahead and look at our recordings while it's doing that in the background. So as you can see, it's already repairing the inconsistency. And while it does that, let's go into the timeline, go into some of our recordings from before. Let's go for Wednesday evening. Let's look at 11 AM at night. Let's go to most of yesterday when I was getting ready to record some ingenious Switch content. As you can see, we're still able to access all of those recordings, even though the system's rebuilding its RAID. Fantastic. Gotta say, I'm always impressed by these systems that can do so much stuff, and particularly when we're not using SSDs, we are using traditional hard drives, and we're still able to get some incredibly fluent read and writes happening simultaneously. But this has been a full deep dive into some of the AI supported services and surveillance on the new Synology DVA3221, and of course thanks again to Seagate for lending us these drives for us to show these off a little bit, but also so this demonstration was utilizing the right kind of media throughout. If you enjoyed this video, click like. If you want to learn more, click subscribe. Hopefully we've got this system a little bit longer where I can arrange some outdoor and vehicular AI supported stuff, maybe utilizing the Synology live camera outdoors, but we'll have to wait and see. But otherwise, if you have enjoyed it and you want to learn more, click subscribe, and do visit the free advice section down below over at NAS Compares. It's 2 guys, myself and Eddie, willing to give you as much free data storage advice as we possibly can. It's free, it's not paid for, it's there if you need it. It just might take an extra day or 2 for us to reply to your emails because we're 2 human beings and we're very, very busy. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.